Alright, listen. The Flash is a mess. No, not that one. The movie? The other one. There we go. We all know this. There's definitely some good elements to it. Probably, but there's plenty on the other side of the discussion. So, instead of rehashing points about visual effects that every Twitter user has made a million times before, I want to talk about something that I love. Women. There's plenty of things to say about female characters and how they're handled in comics and adaptation. But for now, I want to stick to one main concept called fridging. Fridging, formerly known as women in refrigerators, is the practice of seriously harming or killing a female character to develop a male character while sacrificing the female character's potential. The original story behind it is Green Lantern number 54, where a villain kills Kyle Rayner's girlfriend, Alexandra DeWitt, and stuffs her into a refrigerator to be discovered by the Green Lantern. Of course, this isn't the only example of the practice. Famous examples of fridging are the deaths of Gwen Stacy, Leanne Harper, and Rachel in The Dark Knight, as well as what happens to Barbara Gordon in The Killing Joke and Dinah Lance in Green Arrow and the Longbow Hunters. This isn't to say that every single instance of this is individually bad. The death of Gwen Stacy, for example, was one of the most important events in all of comic book history, not just for what it did for Spider-Man, but also for the entire industry, ending the Silver Age and paving the way for a variety of new stories. It's the pattern that we're after. This isn't exclusive to female characters, but it happens significantly more often to them and in different ways than with male characters. When a male character dies, it's usually a big ceremonial affair. The deaths of Superman, Hal Jordan, and Iron Man in the MCU were all significant in their own right. The effects are centralized around their character. Now compare that last example, the death of Iron Man, to Black Widow. Sure, Iron Man is a more important character in the MCU, but he gets a grand death scene with everyone present and then a funeral with everyone present. Black Widow is mentioned in passing a couple of times. What are we doing here? When we look at the night Gwen Stacy died, Cry for Justice, The Dark Knight, The Killing Joke, and Green Arrow and the Longbow Hunters, these aren't stories about the women that died or got hurt. It's about men. Their partners and parents are mostly the focus. When a man dies or gets hurt, we explore the effects on the world and themselves. When a woman dies or gets hurt, we explore the effects on the men around them. Again, this is a general trend. It doesn't account for every case on either side, but it does tell us a lot about the medium of comics and the medium of film when it comes to these gendered biases. As for the DCEU, there's shockingly not that many instances of fridging. When writing this video, I went back and looked through each movie. I didn't rewatch them, of course. I've had more than enough of this universe to last me a couple years. Or decades. Anyway, when I went through it, I expected to see fridging in movies like Batman v Superman or Suicide Squad, but I didn't. As far as I can tell, there's no fridging in the DCEU before The Flash in 2023. There is, however, one instance of fridging afterwards. In Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Mera is removed from the movie fairly early on. I'm not going to presume to know what went on here. It's very possible that the studio didn't want the hassle that comes with the internet's obsession with Amber Heard, but I think this was already written into the script. I don't really see how Mera would play a significant role in this film. Regardless, this is another great example of a woman being harmed and then discarded to motivate a male character around them. The degree to which Arthur values his family is core to the movie, whether that be Mera, his baby, or Orm. It makes sense to appeal to his relationship with Mera, but was there really no better way than to have Black Manta shoot her at the start? Okay, so that's the rest of the DCEU. Somehow not a bad track record. I'm proud of you, well done. Then there's The Flash. I don't know how this was written by a woman. Just for reference, this has a screenplay by Christina Hodson, the same person that did Birds of Prey. Comparing these two and considering how well the women are written is like comparing a boulder to a bouncy castle when assessing buoyancy. There is no overlap. Okay, let's take this one at a time. There are 6 named female characters in this film. Supergirl, Nora Allen, Iris West, Wonder Woman, Faora-Ul, and Patty Spivot. Let's go through these in descending order of quality and really get to the heart of the roles that women play in this movie. Patty Spivot is the most well-rounded independent female character that this movie has to offer. She didn't really have anything to do with the main story or play into any major character beats. She was just kinda there, and that's fine. It's not great, but it is fine. She's not the subject of extensive fuckery, which puts her on top. Sadly. I do have an issue with the way that the character is implemented. It extends to Albert Desmond too, and it has more or less nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. But they're kind of immature. The relationships between Barry and Patty and Albert feels like they're high schoolers trying to prove how cool they are by picking on the nerd. This is not only an outdated stereotype that doesn't really apply all that much anymore, but it also doesn't make any sense. Barry's ID said 1992. That makes him 31 in The Flash. He was in college during Man of Steel, which was a a full decade before this. These are fully grown adults acting half their age at best. I understand that they made Barry a lot more immature in the DCEU to begin with, but this is excessive. She feels a bit like a mean girl that's just started to grow out of it. Funny that they used Gwen Stacy's personality for the character furthest away from fridging in this movie, but I digress. Iris West is a really weird case in that she's positioned as this really important character in the first half hour or so and then completely forgotten about. She doesn't do anything to impact the plot, she doesn't seem to have much impact on Barry's character, so it seems the only point of the character is to be a romantic object to be thrown at Barry. They don't even really do anything. They talk a little bit about his father's trial and his mother, but that's more so a point of unnecessary exposition that could have been solved with a 3-minute trial scene. At that point, cutting her from the film would be the best course of action. I'm assuming this was a matter of studio-mandated characters, especially after she appeared in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but it's still weird. The reason I put Iris below Patty is that Patty at least has tangible characteristics. They're not all that detailed, but Iris is just nice and a bit flirtatious. No real character to speak of outside of her relationship with Barry. Faora is in a kind of weird position where she's not really a character in this movie. She's barely a character in Man of Steel, but that's all that she is, a character from Man of Steel. In this movie, she's still a character from Man of Steel. Like, she's in the movie, but she isn't really. She's just a slab for someone to punch. For some reason, I've seen multiple people say that she's the best side character in all of the DCEU or something wacky like that. Well, I can tell you that in this movie, she has literally no personality whatsoever. She doesn't do anything. I'm not even sure if she has any speaking lines. Her and Supergiant are just mini-bosses for the multiverse's worst Justice League lineup to pitifully fail to fight against. Not much of a character. Wonder Woman doesn't have much in the way of screen time, but she has even less of a role in the movie. She shows up, fixes one irrelevant problem, and accidentally uses her lasso of truth to flex a mid-tier understanding of Batman and make a weird sex joke and leave, never to be referenced again. Now, I would put this on about the same level as Faora, as she's more or less just the hero equivalent of Faora in terms of how much she has to do. However, she commits the cardinal sin of being portrayed by Gal Gadot, so she's definitely below par. Nora Allen is complicated. The idea that Barry's parents are dead is kind of the mainstream conception of his story. It was first written that way in The Flash Rebirth. No, not that one, but people know it as The Only Way because of the CW show. Perfectly fine, but is it fridging? It does qualify by the standard of killing off a female character to develop a main character. I'm kind of stuck on the sacrificing her potential element, because the point of the character as it exists in this story is to be dead. So the point is that there is no potential, and by that metric it's not fridging, but that's more of a technicality. She does just kinda only exist to die, so it's not a good way of presenting women. It's necessary for this story, but this is essentially the definition of a female character only existing for male characters. Building the film around this character's death and only having male characters be impacted by it is definitely in some way related to the larger misogynistic structure of which fridging is a symptom. Last and definitely least in the well-written women race, we have Supergirl. This is an extremely egregious example of fridging, maybe even the most egregious ever. This might genuinely be worse than Gwen Stacy or even Alexandra DeWitt. Let's go through it chronologically. We're introduced to Supergirl in a Russian prison where she's been kept since her arrival on Earth and tortured. Right off the bat, I take issue with this on two fronts. This is taken directly from the Flashpoint comic with two major caveats. It was Superman and it was an American prison. So, firstly, they didn't have the balls to make it a weakened Superman, which could have been a way to honor Supermen of the past or even add Nicolas Cage's Superman in without using AI to puppeteer the corpses of legendary actors who built DC's most foundational character. No, let's use a woman instead. Let's take the version of Superman where the whole point is that he's been drained and weakened to his physical lowest and make it a woman instead. I'm sure there's no sexist talking points at all that directly feeds into. You know what? While we're at it, let's undermine the most interesting part about this whole scenario in the Flashpoint book and remove the critique of the United States and its obsession with military dominance and make it about the Russians instead. Let's put the guy that works for the United States government through law enforcement and not challenge his worldview at all. That'd be insane. You're not allowed to do that in movies. No, it was the Russians. They're evil. We can get away with this random, unnecessary change. So, where do we go from here? Well, Barry over here thinks Supergirl is very pretty. Take notes on that, it's what's supposed to give her value in the climax. There's no actual connection between them, he just thinks she is hot. The film does essentially nothing else to build out her character. The closest you can get is the 2 minutes it takes her to come to the conclusion that humanity is worth saving after all. Making Clark look like a clown, by the way, took this motherfucker decades, took her around 3 seconds. And that's basically everything that she's got going on in this movie. Cut to the big battle, she's mad about them having killed Clark, and then she dies again, and again, and again, and again. This is a wild thing to do. Not just to a character, but to an actress. Sasha Calle had to carry the promotion of this movie on her fucking back, and she gets fucked harder than Eddie Brock's second boyfriend. Just to get everything clear, let's look at the conclusion of her story. Oh wait, never mind, there isn't one. Batman gets a bit of an ending, but Supergirl just gets caught up in a loop forever to motivate Barry to destroy the multiverse or whatever. Genuinely terrible. She and this Batman were supposed to come back at the end of the movie, but they were replaced by George Clooney, a worthless cameo that didn't go anywhere and didn't tie into the rest of the story at all. But I guess that's what Supergirl gets for being a woman. Ultimately, this movie just sucks for female characters. It is terrible. Whether it's fridging, like with Supergirl, being underdeveloped, like with Patty, Faora, and Iris, or whatever the fuck happened with Nora, it's just not a good time. Look, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I don't know. I don't know anymore. I think this is an F tier. I think it's worse than Wonder Woman 1984. I'm done. I need to be done. The DCEU, it has to stop. Please, let it stop. Just one more video. One more. But before that, I gotta go make the worst fucking Flash movie imaginable. Have a good one.